You swipe right. Your heart skips. A message appears. It feels new. It feels modern. It feels like something no human before you has ever done. But the real answer is far stranger. 50,000 years ago, a person just like you was doing almost the exact same thing, without a single screen in sight. Strip away the phone. Strip away the coffee shop and the awkward first date. What's left underneath is ancient machinery. Your nervous system. Your instincts. Your quiet, restless need to be chosen. None of that was built for you. It was built for someone standing in an ice age valley, sizing up a stranger from another camp. So what did dating actually look like back before dating had a name? Start with the obvious problem. You couldn't just date anyone. Your own campsite was small. Maybe 25 people. Maybe fewer. Everyone there was already your cousin, your sibling, your aunt's child. If you wanted a partner who wasn't a close relative, you had exactly one option. You had to leave. That single fact changed everything about early human romance. It turned dating into logistics. It turned attraction into geography. And it explains something researchers didn't expect to find, buried in bones that were 34,000 years old. In 2017, a team led by geneticist Eske Willerslev studied skeletons from a site in Russia called Sunghir. The people buried there were rich in ornaments, beads, tools, clearly valued, clearly cared for. Willerslev expected to find a small, tightly bred community. Instead, he found almost no inbreeding at all. These weren't isolated. They were connected. Somehow, deep in the Ice Age, humans had already built dating networks that spanned dozens of neighboring groups, all without writing anything down. Think about what that means. Somebody had to travel. Somebody had to meet a stranger, size them up, decide they were worth the risk of leaving home for. Was there small talk around a fire? Probably. Was there posturing showing off a skill, a tool, a kill? Almost certainly. The mechanics were different. The nervousness underneath was not. Here's the twist nobody expects. You'd think the biggest force shaping ancient romance was passion. It wasn't. It was food. Anthropologist Bernard Chapais has spent years studying why humans, almost uniquely among primates, tend to form long-term pairs at all. Most of our closest relatives don't. Chimpanzees don't. Gorillas mostly don't. Chapais argues that early human males who were lower on the social ladder discovered a new strategy. Instead of fighting for status, they started bringing food to a specific woman consistently, reliably. Provisioning became courtship. A steady flow of meat or gathered plants became an ancient love language, one that predates poetry, predates gifts wrapped in paper, predates every grand romantic gesture you've ever seen in a movie. That single shift, feeding one partner instead of competing for many, may be the real root of monogamy. Not candlelight calories. But provisioning alone doesn't explain the whole picture. Why would a woman ever choose one partner and stay? This is where anthropologist Kristen Hawkes enters the story, with an idea that reframes grandmothers as the secret architects of human love. Hawkes studied the Hadza, a hunter-gatherer community in Tanzania, and noticed something odd. Grandmothers who were long past childbearing age were still working constantly, gathering food, feeding grandchildren, freeing up their daughters to have more children sooner. This extra support extended human lifespans dramatically over evolutionary time. And it created something unexpected. A surplus. Suddenly, there were more older, fertile men than young, fertile women to go around. Competition intensified. Guarding a partner became valuable. And pair bonding, that quiet, exclusive run-of-the-mill relationship you might currently be in, started looking less like romance and more like strategy. Hawkes essentially argues that grandmothers, not candlelit dinners, are why so many humans settle down with one partner at all. Does that sound unromantic? Maybe. But there's something deeply moving buried in it too. Every stable relationship you've ever admired might trace its roots back to an elderly woman, thousands of generations ago, quietly making sure her grandchildren survived. Now picture the actual moment of meeting someone new, 50,000 years ago. No dating app profiles. No carefully chosen photos. Just a body standing in front of you, and your brain running calculations you were never taught and never chose. Researchers studying mate preference across cultures have found strikingly consistent patterns. Signs of health symmetry, strength or the ability to gather resources. None of these were conscious checklists. They were instincts sharpened over hundreds of thousands of years by a simple, brutal filter. Choose wrong and your children might not survive. That's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your butterflies, the nervous energy you feel meeting someone attractive, the flush of interest at a stranger's laugh, none of it was designed for pleasure. It was designed for survival math, running silently underneath the surface, dressed up as feeling. So how did two ancient strangers actually connect? Not with words alone. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer courtship across the world describe rituals built on shared activity instead of conversation. Dancing together at a gathering of multiple bands. Trading a beautifully made tool as a gift. Demonstrating a skill, a good throw, a clever trap, a song. These weren't decorative. They were proof. Proof of competence. Proof of what kind of partner and what kind of parent you might become. And once interest was mutual, there was often no privacy at all. Most early human groups lived, slept, and raised children within a few feet of each other, inside a single shared shelter. Courtship had an audience. Family had an opinions. Sound familiar? It should. Long before your relatives started asking pointed questions about who you're seeing, ancient relatives were doing exactly the same thing, evaluating a new partner not just for you, but for the whole group's survival. Here's the deeper reframe. You might imagine your ancestors as impulsive, driven purely by desire, choosing partners in the heat of a single moment. The evidence suggests something closer to the opposite. Early human mate choice was remarkably deliberate. People traveled. People negotiated across group lines. People weighed reliability over intensity again and again, because a bad choice didn't just break a heart. It could break a family's chances of making it through the next hard winter. That's the part your dating app can't replicate, no matter how sophisticated its algorithm becomes. It can filter by age, by distance, by a dozen shallow preferences. But it can't replicate the ancient weight your body still carries into every first meeting. The subtle calculation. The old buried question your instincts are still quietly asking. Can I trust this person with my future? You feel that question every time your stomach tightens before a first date. You feel it in the split-second pause before you decide whether to text back. That's not modern anxiety. That's 50,000 years of careful selection, compressed into a single nervous heartbeat. Consider your last date again, whenever it was. The mild performance of it. Choosing what to wear, what to say, which version of yourself to present. Ancient humans did the same thing, with beads instead of outfits, with a shared kill instead of a dinner reservation, with a long walk between camps instead of a long drive across town. The costume changed completely. The performance underneath stayed remarkably intact. And maybe that's the real comfort hiding inside all of this. You are not awkward because something is wrong with you. You are awkward because your brain is still running software built for a world of campfires and small, watchful communities, trying its best to operate inside glass screens and crowded cities. The nervousness you feel is not a flaw. It's an inheritance. Now think about what happened after the choosing. Falling for someone is only half the story. Staying is the harder part. What kept two ancient people together, once the initial spark faded into ordinary, repetitive life? Neuroscientists studying pair bonding have traced part of the answer to a small molecule called oxytocin, sometimes nicknamed the bonding hormone. It's released during touch, during shared meals, during the simple act of caring for a child together. Researchers studying prairie voles, a rare monogamous rodent, found that this same chemical system drives lifelong attachment in animals far simpler than us. Humans likely inherited a version of that same ancient circuitry. Your comfort curling up next to someone familiar isn't just emotional. It's chemical, and it's older than language, older than fire. But chemistry alone couldn't hold a relationship together for a lifetime. Something social had to reinforce it too. And that something was the group itself. In small bands, everyone knew everyone. A broken partnership wasn't a private matter. It rippled outward, changing who hunted with whom, who shared food with whom, who watched whose children. This meant relationships carried enormous social weight. Choosing a partner wasn't just personal. It was practically political. Loyalty mattered because disloyalty had consequences that reached far beyond two people. Does that sound intense? It was. Jealousy likely evolved for exactly this reason. Losing a partner to a rival wasn't just heartbreak. In a small, resource-scarce world, it could mean losing access to food, protection, and childcare. The sharp, uncomfortable sting you feel imagining someone you love with another person isn't some modern insecurity invented by movies and social media. It's an old alarm system warning you that something essential might be slipping away. What about breakups themselves? Did they even happen back then? Evidence suggests yes, constantly. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, groups that still live in ways resembling our ancient past, document separation as common and often surprisingly undramatic. Partners split. People moved between camps. New pairings formed. Life continued. The permanence you might associate with marriage today is, in evolutionary terms, a relatively recent cultural invention layered on top of a much more flexible ancient reality. So even heartbreak has a history. The ache of losing someone, the strange disorientation of imagining a future that no longer exists. That feeling traces back through thousands of generations of humans who loved, lost, and somehow kept going anyway. Here's one more layer worth sitting with. Not every ancient pairing crossed the lines you might expect. Genetic studies of interbreeding between Neanderthals and early modern humans reveal a striking pattern. Neanderthal DNA shows up far more often through Neanderthal fathers and modern human mothers than the reverse. Even across an entire species boundary, something like preference or opportunity or circumstance was shaping who paired with whom. Attraction, it turns out, has always been complicated, messy, and only partly explainable, even to the scientists studying it. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking a message, or feeling your pulse spike when someone new smiles at you, remember what's actually happening underneath. It isn't new. It isn't strange. It's ancient. You aren't just looking for a date. Somewhere in the oldest part of your mind, you're still choosing a partner for the next hard winter, and hoping, the way every human before you has hoped, that this time you've chosen well.